The snow had come down hard, relentless, a blizzard they called it, the kind that buries the world, and then silences it. The town of Oakhaven lay still, wrapped in a thick white shroud, a pristine, unbroken blanket, untouched by human hand, or so it seemed. The morning light, when it finally broke, was pale, diffuse. It cast long, eerie shadows across the perfect sculpted drifts. An unsettling quiet had descended, heavier than the snow itself, the kind of quiet that prickles your skin, that makes you listen for something, anything. A world paused, holding its breath, waiting for the thaw, or something else. The air was sharp, crystalline, every tree branch, a delicate ice sculpture. The world remade, transformed, into something beautiful, yes, but also something watchful, as if the snow itself held secrets, concealing rather than revealing. A perfect canvas, waiting for the first mark, the first disturbance. But this morning something felt different. Beyond the usual post-storm calm, a subtle wrongness in the air, a dissonance in the perfect scene. Something had already disturbed the peace, before the sun had even climbed, before the first resident stirred. A silent story etched in the snow, a story that didn't quite make sense. It was young Thomas Miller who saw them first, out early, checking the mail, or trying to. The snowdrifts were formidable, and there they were, not starting from the sidewalk, not from any logical point of origin, but appearing, as if from thin air, right in the middle of Hemlock Street, footprints, deeply pressed into the virgin snow, each one, an almost perfect impression, of a boot, it seemed, a heavy one. But there was something profoundly odd, something that made Tom shiver, more than the biting cold ever could. These weren't just any footprints, they were impossible. Each step was clear, deliberate, the heel dug in deep, the toe less so, indicating a direction of travel. But the direction was all wrong. These prints were facing one way, yet they progressed in the opposite. Someone or something had walked backwards, with an uncanny precision, through the deepest part of the snow. Who would do such a thing, and why? What creature moves with such strange intent? Walking backwards, in the dead of winter, in the middle of an empty street, the questions began to form, like frost on a window pane, obscuring the familiar, hinting at something far more sinister, lurking just beneath the surface. The backward trail was chillingly clear, a deliberate winding path, away from the heart of town, or perhaps towards something else, something it had sought out, with that strange reversed gait. Each print a punctuation mark, in a sentence no one could yet read, leading to a place most tried to forget. The tracks didn't meander aimlessly, they pointed, with eerie purpose, towards the skeletal remains of the old Blackwood place, the house that had burned to the ground. A decade ago, a local tragedy, a whispered legend. Now, these prints were its newest visitors, its most inexplicable callers. Charred timbers jutted from the snow like broken bones, a gaping wound in the landscape, the Blackwood fire. So many stories, so many unanswered questions then. And now, this, footprints, leading backwards, right to the edge of the ruined foundation, as if seeking entry to a place long dead. What dark magnetism pulled them there, to that place of ash and sorrow? Did the past have a hold on the present, reaching out with icy fingers? The footprints stopped abruptly, at the very threshold of the ruin, as if whatever made them had finally reached its destination, or perhaps had just begun its true purpose. Tom Miller stood frozen, utterly still, not just by the biting morning air. His mind reeled, a frantic carousel, trying to comprehend, to process what his young eyes were seeing. Backwards footprints, impossible, in the pristine, untouched snow. It felt like a scene from a dream, a chilling waking nightmare. He had to tell someone. Now! He stumbled back towards his own house, his own boots crunching loudly. Forward, a stark, sensible contrast. He burst through the kitchen door, almost frantic, words tumbling out, a jumbled mess. "Mom! Dad! You have to see this, quickly!" His voice, usually so calm, so measured, now tight with a tremor, strained, urgent. His parents exchanged a familiar look, concern, then a flicker of mild exasperation. "Tom, what on earth is it now?" his mother asked, her voice attempting a soothing tone. He described the scene on Hemlock Street, vividly. The impossible tracks in the deep snow, the eerie, profound silence surrounding them. They listened, polite but unconvinced. A child's overactive imagination, perhaps, stirred by the isolation of the storm. It seemed plausible, for a moment, until they saw his face. But Tom's fear was too real, too raw, too palpable in the warm kitchen, his insistence too strong to dismiss. "They go backwards," he kept repeating, his voice hushed, perfectly backwards for so long. all the way down the empty street, towards the old Blackwood place. That last detail, a whispered dread, that sent the first true icy chill through his initially skeptical parents. It wasn't long before Mrs. Henderson peered out from her window across the street. Old Martha Henderson, she missed nothing. She saw Tom and his parents standing in the middle of Hemlock, pointing, staring down, intently. Curiosity, a powerful, insistent force, pulled her outside wrapped in a thick shawl. What could cause such a singular commotion on a still snow-blanketed morning like this? Soon, a small cluster had formed, uneasy, neighbors drawn by the unusual gathering. Their boots made fresh, normal tracks, sensible tracks, around the strange, meticulously reversed ones, hushed words, muffled by scarves and cold hands, eyes wide with a shared, stunned disbelief. They looked, they pointed, they whispered theories, each one tracing the baffling, illogical path, the backward journey through the deep snow, step by impossible, deliberate step. The prints were undeniably clear, chillingly so, deeply impressed, as if by a heavy, unseen weight. Yet no drag marks, no scuffs, no hesitation, just a perfect, methodical, backward progression. It's like they floated down from the sky, someone muttered, and then walked away, but the wrong way entirely. Skepticism warred with a creeping, insidious unease. No one had a ready explanation, not one. No one could make any logical sense. This silent, snowy, street-side riddle. The air on Hemlock Street grew thick with questions, unspoken fears taking hesitant shape in the cold. Was it an elaborate prank, a deeply clever hoax? But who would go to such extraordinary lengths, in the dead of night, during a raging blizzard, and how? The sheer precision was unnerving. Hemlock Street was no longer just a quiet street. It was a stage for something profoundly unknown, something that walked among them, yet unseen. But not like them. Not like them at all. Oakhaven was a small town, quintessential, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, or at least, they firmly believed they did. News, good or bad, joyous or grim, traveled fast. Faster than a winter wind down Main Street sometimes. And this news? This was utterly different. This wasn't idle gossip about a neighbor's fence. This was something else entirely. Something foreign. Something that pricked at old, half-forgotten fears. Something that felt ancient and unwelcome. The phones began to ring, one after another. One call, then another, then a sudden dozen more. Have you heard about Hemlock Street? You won't believe it. Footprints? Going backwards? Is that even possible? The story spread from house to anxious house, each telling adding a new, breathless layer of wonder, of stark disbelief, of palpable dread. The quiet, snow-draped, peaceful morning was irrevocably shattered by a ripple of alarm, a collective, uneasy gasp from the awakened town, and then, the detail that truly stuck in the throat, the one that made stomachs clench with apprehension. The tracks led with unerring purpose, it seemed, towards the skeletal, blackened Blackwood ruins, that desolate, fire-scarred, lonely place, a place of lingering tragedy, of whispered, dark stories, of things best left undisturbed, forgotten, buried. Suddenly this wasn't just strange or peculiar, it was sinister. It was deeply, profoundly chilling. The past, it seemed, wasn't truly buried after all. Someone had to call the authorities, immediately. Sheriff Brody. He'd know what to do, surely, or at least they desperately hoped he would. This was far beyond a fallen tree blocking a road, or a minor fender bender on an icy patch. This was Oakhaven's quiet, unsuspecting heart, suddenly faced with the utterly inexplicable. The entire town held its breath, a silent vigil, waiting, watching, collectively wondering what or who had come visiting in the deep night. Sheriff Jim Brody arrived, his cruiser crunching slowly, heavily down the still mostly unplowed, silent street. He was a man of logic, of hard facts, solid evidence, not given to flights of fancy or local superstitions. He'd seen his share of strange, unsettling things in his 20 long years protecting the town of Oakhaven. But this was something entirely new, unique. He stepped out into the frigid air, his face grim, surveying the small, anxious crowd of his townsfolk, and the pristine, inexplicably backward tracks. He knelt by the very first print, deliberate, methodical, examining it with a keen, practiced, unwavering eye. No subtle signs of human trickery, no wires, no molds, no telltale marks of an easily dismissed hoax. Just the clear, deep, unambiguous impression of a boot, pointing steadfastly one way, yet the trail unmistakably, impossibly went the other. He walked the line of prints, slowly, thoughtfully, His prolonged silence, a heavy, unspoken blanket adding its own weight to the morning's biting chill. "Anyone see anything? Hear anything unusual last night?" Brody asked. His voice rough, a gravelly sound against the profound quiet. Shakes of heads all around, murmurs of no, Sheriff. The blizzard had been a perfect, impenetrable cover for whatever, or whoever, had created this scene. The sheriff straightened up slowly, rubbing his gloved chin. No easy answers here, none at all. No quick, comforting explanations to offer his people. Just a cold, stark, baffling riddle etched with precision in the winter snow. The sun climbed higher in the pale sky, weak, indifferent, casting a pale, unforgiving light on the unfolding mystery. The footprints remained, undisturbed, unmelted, a silent, stubborn, chilling testament to a night of impossible, unsettling happenings. Oakhaven was awake now, fully and fearfully. But the discovery on Hemlock Street had cast a long shadow. A sense of profound unease settled deep in its core. The day had only just begun its cold journey, but it already felt darker, colder, more threatening. The Blackwood place. It hadn't always been a ruin. Once it stood proud. The largest house on the outskirts of Oakhaven. The Blackwood family were enigmatic, reclusive. Old money, some whispered. Old secrets, others implied. Creating an aura of mystery, long before the flames. Stories passed down through generations. The Blackwood house seemed to collect them more readily. Mr. Alistair Blackwood, the patriarch, a stern figure, rarely seen. His wife, Alara, even more elusive. They had one daughter, Seraphina, pale and quiet. The family's isolation bred speculation. Before the fire, the house was a landmark, a connection to a past best left buried. The fire. It happened on a bitter autumn night. The flames erupted violently, painting the dark sky in horrifying hues, illuminating Oakhaven with a terrifying light. The Blackwood house was already an inferno, unstoppable. By dawn, only smoldering ruins remained. The Blackwood family, they were never found. No bodies were recovered. The cause of the fire was never truly determined officially. Others hinted at something darker, a grim reminder of a night of terror, loss, and unanswered questions. After the fire, the Blackwood place became a focal point for fear. Teenagers dared each other to venture near the charred remains. Some swore they saw strange, flickering lights. One rumor spoke of Seraphina Blackwood, the pale, quiet daughter, a spectral guardian of her family's ruined legacy. Another legend told of a hidden treasure, buried beneath the rubble. This attracted hopeful treasure hunters, though none ever reported finding anything of value. The Blackwood ruins became a part of the town's dark folklore. Now, with impossible footprints leading to its edge, those old legends felt suddenly, terribly, more real. The Blackwood ruins stood as a monument to desolation, a jagged wound in the peaceful landscape. Even on the brightest day, a chill hung in the air, a palpable sense of sorrow and something more sinister. The townsfolk gave it a wide berth, avoiding its dark history. Now, the backward footprints changed everything, breaching the unspoken quarantine around the ruins. As if the house itself had issued a grim invitation. The sight of the footprints sent a fresh wave of unease through Oakhaven. The empty windows, like eyes, seemed to watch. The ruin now felt like the epicenter of a creeping horror. They had reawakened the slumbering ghosts of the Blackwood legacy. Sheriff Brody wasn't a man easily swayed by panic or by fanciful tales. He dealt in facts, intangible evidence. But the scene on Hemlock Street, it tested him. Yellow police tape now fluttered, a stark contrast against the pure, undisturbed white canvas, cordoning off the impossible, sealing the mystery. He needed to understand, to find a logical thread in this tapestry of the absurd. His breath misted in the frigid, biting air. He began his methodical, painstaking examination anew, ruling out the obvious, the simple explanations. Could it be children playing a prank? Unlikely. The precision was too great, the depth too consistent, and the backward progression so deliberate, so unnatural. No stray marks, no signs of fumbling or error, as if the perpetrator was an expert in reverse locomotion, or something not bound by normal human limitations. The blizzard had raged, providing perfect silent cover for this strange, unsettling performance. Brody interviewed Tom Miller first, then his parents. Their accounts matched, perfectly, unwaveringly. Young Tom's initial shock, his genuine terror, it was hard to dismiss, hard to doubt. Then, the neighbors, Mrs. Henderson, Mr. Graybles, they all told the same story, of disbelief, of unease. No one had seen anything, heard anything, suspicious. The snow had muffled the world into a deep slumber, leaving only these silent, inexplicable calling cards. A message without a sender, or one they couldn't comprehend. The hoax theory, it gnawed at him, persistently. It had to be a hoax. What else could it possibly be? But the sheer effort involved, the incredible difficulty to walk backwards so accurately, for such a distance, in deep, freshly fallen, untrodden snow, during a blizzard, without leaving any other trace, no entry, no exit. It strained credulity to its very breaking point. The questions piled up, higher than the snowdrifts, each one colder, more unsettling than the last. This was no ordinary case, not by a long shot. Sheriff Brody turned to Mrs. Eleanor Vance, the town historian, her house a living archive filled with forgotten stories. She listened intently to his account of the backward footprints. Mrs. Vance spoke of the Blackwood's isolation and the whispers that followed them. She recounted rumors of strange happenings around the property. There were tales of disappearances and strange lights. Did she have a theory? Some places hold on to things, she said. Memories, energies. The past has a long reach, Sheriff Brody. He left with more questions. Back on Hemlock Street, the investigation continued. Brody and Harris measured each footprint with frosty precision. They photographed every angle, searching for any clue, but the prints remained stubbornly perfect, as if made by something that knew no earthly rules. These were undeniably boot prints, humanoid, clear. No known creature walked backwards with such accuracy. The hoax theory kept circling back. Could someone have crafted special shoes? The prints simply began and ended at the edge of the Blackwood property, as if by magic. The Blackwood house, the fire, the family gone, and now these backward footprints. A direct line connecting the present mystery to that past tragedy. News of the investigation spread like wildfire throughout the small town of Oakhaven. Sheriff Brody's presence and the yellow tape confirmed the impossible was being taken seriously. Fear grew louder as residents exchanged theories in anxious groups. The backward footprints dominated every conversation. Some offered explanations rooted in old superstitions, ghosts seeking something or a dire omen. The unnatural track spoke to something ancient and profoundly wrong. The psychological toll was immediate as routines altered. Doors were locked earlier and parents kept their children closer. The town held its breath, waiting for the backward walker to make its presence known again. Sheriff Brody felt the weight of the town's fear, but he had no answers. Only a growing list of questions. The footprints remained a chilling enigma, refusing to yield their secrets. The investigation felt like chasing a ghost from a time Oakhaven had tried to forget. The initial shock transformed into something colder, fear. It settled over Oakhaven like an invisible snowstorm, far more chilling than the first. The backward footprints were a stark portent of something deeply wrong. Whispers resurrected old tales of things that walked unseen in the dead of winter. The tracks became a dark magnet, drawing the curious and the deeply fearful. Was it a warning, a message from beyond, or something more terrifying? The lack of explanation bred the darkest imaginings. Oakhaven now felt like a stage for an unseen actor, and the play had only just begun. The town was on edge, waiting with frayed nerves. Oakhaven's sense of safety shattered with the backward footprints. Fear crept into every home, twisting the familiar into something menacing. Shadows grew longer, and every sound became a threat. Sheriff Brody's silence only deepened the unease. Trust frayed. Suspicion took root. The town's unity splintered under the weight of the unknown. The footprints didn't just mark the snow, they scarred Oakhaven's soul. The ordinary was gone, only dread remained. Old legends resurfaced, no longer dismissed as children's tales. Mrs. Vance spoke of the backward man, a figure from ancient folklore. The footprints matched the legend too well. The Blackwood tragedy became entwined with these stories. The ruin was now a focal point for fear. The backward steps felt like a deliberate, sinister message. Oakhaven's myths had come alive, and they were terrifying. Night brought a suffocating dread to Oakhaven. Lights flickered on early, but shadows pressed in. Streets emptied, homes became fortresses. Silence reigned, broken only by the wind and distant howls. Families huddled, listening for any sign of the backward walker. Sleep was restless, the town holding its breath. The sense of community faded, replaced by isolation. Darkness felt alive, patient, and watchful. Oakhaven was no longer just a town, it was haunted. As snow melted, the footprints faded, but fear lingered, a false alarm. Lucy Parsons saw vague marks in the snow. Sheriff Brody found nothing conclusive, but nerves were raw. Relief was mixed with doubt, the terror was just beneath the surface. The town remained tense, waiting for the next sign. The original footprints were gone, but their memory haunted everyone. Was it truly over? or just a pause before another storm. The false alarm didn't ease the town's anxiety. New whispers spread, strange sensations, odd marks, spooked animals. Near the Blackwood property, fear grew sharper. Sheriff Brody found no answers, only uncertainty. The disturbances were vague but chilling. Oakhaven felt surrounded by the unknown. The whispers grew, carried on the biting wind. Then, something new. A section of the Blackwood fence was warped, pushed from within. No tracks, just impossible force. Sheriff Brody was baffled. This was no prank. The town was shaken. This was a display of power. The riddle deepened, fear sharpened. The entity was active, not just a memory. Oakhaven's fragile security shattered. The nightmare had evolved. The bent fence changed everything. This was undeniable. Experts came and left, offering no answers. The backward force was a new, terrifying chapter. Oakhaven felt watched, exposed, and powerless. Nightmares plagued the town. The Blackwood ruin loomed larger. The investigation stalled, but the fear grew. The backward steps mystery had only deepened. Oakhaven was caught in a fearful vigil, waiting for the next sign. The town was forever changed, forever haunted. The snows have long since melted. The backward footprints on Hemlock Street vanished from the earth, but not from memory. Sheriff Brody's investigation remains open, a testament to the inexplicable. No answers were ever truly found, only more questions. The Blackwood place stands as a ruin, a silent sentinel, an invitation to a darkness that never left. Oakhaven tried to move on, but some wounds never truly closed, especially when the first snows of winter began to fall, a chilling reminder of a day when logic failed, and the impossible walked among them, leaving an indelible mark. The bent fence, the spooked animals, the vague indentations, or signs that the presence remained, lingering, watching. The possibility hung heavy in the Oakhaven air, that the backward walker was not a singular occurrence, but a dormant threat. This thought kept the fear alive. The backward footprints of Oakhaven tore the veil between our world and something else, and in doing so they changed the town forever, leaving only the chilling, stark reality of the unexplained. The tale of the backward footprints has become legend now, a permanent fixture in Oakhaven's local dark folklore. The footprints are gone, but their story walks on, and always, always backwards.